This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge. Commencing at the siren, any and all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 continuous hours. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable until tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. when the purge concludes. May God be with you all.
The Enterprise is looking for a missing ship called the Archon, which is said to have disappeared somewhere around Beta 3. Sulu and a random crew member go undercover on the planet to investigate. Unfortunately, they are discovered.
They're running from some creepy cloaked dudes with big sticks. The rando runs away while Sulu gets hit with some kind of energy that makes him act whacked out and brainwashed when he gets back to the ship, waxing ecstatic about someone or something named Landru. So Kirk takes a landing party down to the planet to rescue the missing crew member and to find out what's been done to Sulu. I love seeing the Enterprise crew out of uniform. Deforest Kelley looks positively scrum-diddly-umptious in his westernish suit, and Spock, well...
When I was a young boy, my father...
The people on the planet act like zombies on Valium, just like Sulu. A man approaches the group and mentions a festival beginning at the Red Hour. The Red Hour strikes and the natives absolutely lose it, getting into fights, hooking up in the streets, and destroying property. One lady jumps on Kirk and just starts making out with him. That's assault. The crew hides in a boarding house where they meet a man named Reger, who doesn't seem to be under the same spell as the rest of the planet's citizens. He says that the madness outside is the will of Landru. Reger puts the crew up and gets very scared when Kirk asks more about Landru.
Landru, you ask... You're strange. You scorn festival?
There's no war in Ba Sing Se.
In the morning, the citizens go back to normal and carry on as if they hadn't just torn the village apart. Then the same men in cloaks from before, the Lawgivers, arrive at that moment and kill Reger's friend. They order the Enterprise crew to come with them to be absorbed. Kirk is like, nah, sister, you're not taking me to no secondary location. I don't know why the Lawgivers don't just thrallify them with their sticks like they did with Sulu, but whatever. Reger helps the crew get to somewhere safe, but on the street, Landru takes control of the townsfolk and uses them to attack our heroes. So Reger takes the crew to the underground lair where he hosts his eyes wide shut parties. Reger is part of a resistance effort.
It turns out that the Archon ship the Enterprise has been looking for was destroyed by Landru.
Sure enough, the Enterprise is under attack by some heat rays coming from the planet. The Enterprise begins to drop out of orbit, and Scotty estimates that they have 12 hours before they hit the planet unless Kirk and the boys find a way to stop Landru's attacks. Unfortunately, Landru finds them. The Lawgivers trap them in a different underground facility and take Bones away. Spock tells Kirk that he's noticed that the Lawgivers seem confused by Kirk's earlier defiance, like a computer reacting to paradoxical information. The Lawgivers bring back Bones, who is now newly zombified. It's truly uncanny to see a docile McCoy.
We all know one another. In Landru.
There's no war in Ba Sing.
The Lawgivers take Kirk and Spock to Lake Laogai, to get hypnotized by a man named Marplon, but lucky for them, he's also in the Resistance with Reger. He fakes hypnotizing Kirk and Spock and sends them back to the holding cell. They manage to overpower the Lawgivers and escape. Marplon leads them to Landru, who turns out to be not a man, but a machine. Sort of a twist on The Wizard of Oz. And here we have the first in a long line of episodes where Kirk talks a computer to death. Landru claims its primary function is to maintain peace within the body, to which Kirk says,
without freedom of choice, there is no creativity. Without creativity, there is no life. The body dies. The fault is yours.
The realization that Landru is the very thing harming the society it's trying to protect causes the device to blow itself up. The zombified citizens are freed from Landru's thrall, as are Bones and Sulu, and the ship is saved. The episode ends on Kirk and Spock discussing how a machine could never run a society because it can't replace humanity.
See, we've learned something today.
How often mankind has wished for a world as peaceful and secure as the one Landru provided.
Yes. And we never got it. Just lucky, I guess.
Gene Roddenberry himself penned this episode, naming the Archons after a club he was a member of in college. It's surprisingly culturally significant, considering that not only did actor Ben Stiller name his production company Red Hour Productions in tribute to this episode, but the concept of the Red Hour itself supposedly inspired the entire premise behind the Purge franchise, hence the opening. During the scene in which Kirk outlogics Landru, the machine says,
I think I lived.
Which, if you know even basic philosophy, you might recognize as just a slightly reworded version of René Descartes' famous phrase, I think, therefore I am. It's a statement on how a being that doubts its own existence proves simply by that doubt that it does exist. Which is interesting considering the entire theme of the episode is that machines cannot compare to sentient beings. Landru was programmed by a man, and therefore is susceptible to man's flaws. Perhaps it's hinting that it's possible for a machine to show signs of humanity after all. But before I put Descartes before Dehorse... I'm funny, shut the f*** up. I want to talk about the concept of a utopia. We've seen the idea explored in many sci-fi stories, like The Giver by Lois Lowry. Some classify the Federation as a kind of utopia, with abolishments of sickness, famine, prejudice, and poverty. Of course, we know that's not really true. People still get sick in the 23rd century. Maybe not pandemic levels, but there is a need for a medical officer for a reason. People still have prejudice, otherwise the Federation in Kirk's time wouldn't be at constant odds with the Klingons and the Romulans. It's certainly an improved society from ours, but it's far from perfect. But is a perfect society even possible, even in the future? And is it something we should even want? Stories like The Giver portray what a utopian society would realistically be like, and what it would take to achieve and maintain a society like that. Complete control over personal freedoms, dissent quashed in its tracks, all individuality stripped away, and in some extreme cases, eugenics, which we've already established as a very bad thing. They tackled a similar idea in Doctor Who during the 10th Doctor's run. In Doctor Who, the Cybermen represent an existential fear of having one's identity and humanity stripped away, of living without choice.
Once you get rid of sickness and mortality, then what's there to strive for? Hey, the Cybermen won't advance. You just stop. You stay like this forever. A metal Earth with metal men and metal thoughts. Lacking the one thing that makes this planet so alive. People. Ordinary, stupid, brilliant people.
I can set you free. Would you not want that? A life without pain.
You might as well kill me.
But to me, Return of the Archons most resembles the Jasmine arc from Angel, the spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If you don't want major spoilers for Angel, skip to the timecode on the screen. In Angel, Jasmine, played by the woman who I will simp for until the end of my days, Gina Torres, is a higher being who comes to Earth and entrances all of humanity into worshipping her. Jasmine's Earth is a paradise where there is no conflict or pain, only peace. It's not until Angel Investigations team member Fred comes into direct contact with Jasmine's blood that the spell over her breaks, and she realizes Jasmine is actually a hideous monster who is devouring humanity bit by bit. Jasmine mind controls everyone else on planet Earth to turn against Fred and hunt her down, as she is a threat to Jasmine's total control of the population. Similarly, those not of the body on Beta 3 are either forcibly absorbed or put to death. Reger's friend can't even make a little joke about Landru without being killed by the Lawgivers. The point is that the price for paradise is total submission and human life.
You said you wanted freedom. It's time you learned that freedom is never a gift, it has to be earned.
So yeah, Landru's world is not a utopia. It's a dystopia in Utopia's clothing. Scholar M. Keith Booker even equated Beta 3's culture with Stalinism. What it really is a cult. Besides, it can hardly be called a perfect society when leaders command their followers to lose their shit and start rioting and destroying public property. But don't worry, I'm sure Landru will get acquitted. Twice. Some modern philosophers argue that what we as a society should strive for is not to become a utopia, but rather a protopia, a term which futurist Kevin Kelley describes as a state that is better today than yesterday, although it might be only a little better. In Kelley's words, protopia is much, much harder to visualize because a protopia contains as many new problems as new benefits. This complex interaction of working and broken is very hard to predict. Basically, the idea is that we improve as a society, wow, I have officially used that word way too many times now, a little bit every day, instead of expecting absolute perfection. Since humans are inherently flawed, we will never run out of conflicts. But we can try to fix the problems we have now, so we'll be better prepared for the ones coming in the future.
And modern problems require modern solutions.
And I think that's what Star Trek excels at, showing humanity in all its flaws, but accentuating its potential. Its better self. Okay, enough of me going on and on about the social progress of humanity. You know at some point we're going to have to talk about the Prime Directive. No, not Landru's mission to keep the citizens of Beta 3 docile and brainwashed. Starfleet's Prime Directive. But quite frankly, this video is getting long enough as it is, and it's a topic I really want to dig into in detail. And there's better episodes with which to discuss it. I know it's been a while since my last video. The last month and a half has been incredibly busy for me. Not to mention, my state, Texas, went through a huge natural disaster last month, which I'm sure you're aware, but I intend to keep posting videos whenever I can. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys. Stay safe.
My name is...
What?
My name is...
Who?
My name